For today's art challenge, we're going to try grid drawings. The technique using grids for drawings, grid drawings, helps you reproduce an image accurately. So I have some worksheets in this week's assignment that you can download, print out, and try out. Or if you find some of these worksheets online, I found this one right here, this website. You can also download those, print it out, and use it as well. There's some cool ones out there with superheroes and whatnot. So if you don't like any of the ones from the assignment, you're welcome to try and research and find a grid drawing that you would like to try. So in a reference picture of a grid drawing, there's going to be the picture that you're going to draw, and there's going to be these lines. And these lines are going to make a bunch of squares, which are called the grids. So if you look at this hand, it might seem like it's really hard to draw all of these details and draw so realistically. But if you focus on just one grid, one of those squares at a time, then it's not really that hard. That's just a little bit of a line. If you look at the next grid, it's just another little bit of a line with two little lines coming out. So it kind of helps your mind focus on one thing at a time instead of being scared of drawing the whole thing. So one way to make sure that you're focusing on one thing at a time is to really carefully look at the grid and find the same grid on the bottom sheet. So I have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to focus on this grid right here. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and now I know that this square, this grid, is going to be the same as this grid. So there's just a little bit of line right here. So I'm just going to draw a little line right there. The next grid, right here, I'm going to draw it next to it, and it kind of comes in and out, and there's some skinnier lines coming out like this. The next grid, it connects here, goes up out to the middle, and then the next grid here is above. And it's just that little bit. See how you're only doing a little bit of a line at a time. So it should not be as hard as trying to draw this whole thing all at once. So I'm gonna keep moving to the next grid. Next grid. And if you get lost and forget where you are, just count. That's the nice thing about grids. So if I count my next one, I forgot where it was. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 from the top. So then I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 from the top. I know that I need to focus on this grid next. And if this is still confusing to you, a trick that you can use is to get some sticky notes and cover up everything except for the grid that you're working on right now. So I'm going to work on this grid next. So I'm going to cover that up. Cover that up. Cover that. And cover that. So now I can just see that part of the grid. So now it'll be easier to draw. So it's going to be a little bit more work because you have to move these around when you go to the next grid. So my next grid is right here. But if you would like to try that, you're totally welcome to use that trick as well. So now I drew this over here. And when you're done with the bigger shapes, make sure you go in and do some details. Some of the worksheets from the assignment are a little bit harder with lots of details, some are a little bit easier. So try and get as much details as you can. Okay, so now I finished my grid drawing with the pencil, but because the grid is kind of in the way and it makes it harder to see our image, let's trace it. I'm going to use Sharpie marker. And if you have one of the ones that have different line weights are the thicknesses of the line. Like this is thick over here, thin over here. It'll be great extra practice to go over and make the thick parts thick and use a thinner tool for the thin parts. That's training your eyes even more to look at the thick and thin lines to make it more accurate. So I'm doing the thicker lines first, and then I think I'll switch to a skinny Sharpie to do the thin lines. Okay, so I got the thicker lines now, so I'm going to switch to a skinny Sharpie. And I will start tracing the little details, the wrinkles of the hand. Now, even if you're just tracing, it would be a great idea to look at the original image too. That way, you're not just making things up in your mind, you're actually drawing the lines that are supposed to be drawn. Okay, so now my picture is traced. So I would like you to actually color your finished grid drawing as well. So color the positive space that's inside of the lines and also color the background. And please send me your finished grid drawing that is colored this week.